Human beings are social creatures, forming strong bonds with others of their kind. But some relationships form outside of the norms, so rare and extreme that many find them taboo. In Washington State, this man has an intimate relationship with his vehicles.
In the morning, I give him a kiss. In the evening, I give him a kiss.
And in Germany, this woman is romantically involved with the Berlin Wall.
I want to live, and I want to love, and I want to do it out loud like everyone else.
In Berkeley, California, this therapist has sex with hundreds of different men for money.
How many clients have I had sex with? I estimate probably about 900.
And in the UK, this woman is nearly old enough to be her husband's grandmother. They have all crossed a boundary into the world of forbidden love. While many men are passionate about their cars, this man stands out from the crowd. He doesn't just adore his vehicle, he makes love to it. In Washington State, 59-year-old Edward Smith lives a quiet life on the outskirts of the small town of Yelm. He enjoys his rural lifestyle, and like many other men, he adores his cars. There's cinnamon, ginger, and his favorite, vanilla. He cleans them, polishes them, and when the moment takes him, makes love to them.
This is Vanilla, my 1974 Standard Beetle, and the love of my life.
Many people are attached to their cars, but Edward treats his like it's his wife.
Most folks just take it to a certain point, but with me, it's identify whether it is a love mate.
Edward's relationship places him in an extremely rare category. He's an objectum sexual.
Objectum sexuality is an emotional, romantic, and often sexual attraction to objects.
Vanilla has become Edward's lifelong companion.
It's more than just a sexual experience. It's a friend, a really close friend that literally speaks to me in many ways.
But how can a cold piece of metal arouse such powerful emotions?
We have in our brains an entire brain system for falling in love, and it can be triggered in an instant. What's happened to these people is just the right moment, just the certain set of circumstances triggered that brain system, and they fell in love with an object. And then other parts of the brain somehow overcame the resistance, the social taboo against falling in love with an object, and they went that route.
While most people might find Edward's behavior bizarre in the extreme, he makes no apology for his chosen lifestyle.
I never think of it as abnormal or perverse. I think it's just different and coming from a direction that a lot of people don't understand.
In general, society tends to regard any relationship that can't produce offspring as taboo.
Well, there are lots of sexual taboos about anything that's non-reproductive. And of course, sex with physical objects is obviously the extreme of a relationship that couldn't possibly be reproductive. So we think there is some sort of taboo about focusing your sexual desires on an object.
Many objectum sexuals discover their sexual orientation around puberty. Edward's younger brother, Jack, recalls their childhood.
Growing up, especially our mother, every car we had, she had a name for that car. So it wasn't just a car. It was part of the family, you know. And so maybe his love of cars even started way back then.
As a teenager, Ed was different from other boys.
My other brother and me being the youngest, we were always more in the party mode and going out and going to dances and going on dates and things with our lady friends. Edward was always, you might say, more serious-minded. He liked girls, and he had a couple of girlfriends, but just no long-term relationships.
Maybe there was some kind of aspect to being afraid of a relationship, but that doesn't really linger in my mind. It's not really fear, it's just preference.
Ed recalls his first romantic encounter with a vehicle at the age of 14.
Neighbors had a Beetle, and I remember late at night going up to it and giving it a hug. It was the first time I'd ever actually hugged and kissed an automobile.
For decades, Ed kept his secret hidden from the world.
For the longest time, I could tell no one. I felt fear that if I even mentioned it, that I'd be committed or something.
It's only in recent years that Ed discovered via the internet that there are others out there just like him.
There's hundreds and hundreds of people who feel like I do. They're all over the world, and more of them are coming online.
The online community of objectum sexuals has more than doubled in the last 2 years.
I'm just learning so much these past few years of how to communicate this to people without being ridiculous.
Some researchers believe that objectum sexuality should be accepted as part of the broad spectrum of human sexual behavior.
Most people seem to just say, oh my God, when they hear about objectum sexuality. But I think that's partly because we live in a very sex-negative culture, and we have very limited understanding of the wide range of human erotic and sexual behavior.
The cutest little balls here. Love her.
In winter, Edward prefers lovemaking with Cinnamon in the warmth of his garage.
It's a kind of a substitute, but a great way to relieve my passion, you might say.
But what he considers lovemaking is to most people masturbation.
The main thing to remember is that what we might think of as masturbation with an object for an objectum sexual is actually partner sex.
Feels wonderful. What a machine.
But Edward's bond is more than physical. He's even written love poems dedicated to Vanilla.
You were born in Wolfsburg in August 73. Volkswagen Beetle in white. My motor heart friend on wheels of love. This is an expression of love and a relationship. It fulfills me in a manner beyond gratification, physical gratification. It fulfills me in the spiritual realm. Bursting in passion, I call out your name. Vanilla, she hears. Though few would know, a car could feel the love the driver feels.
Objectum sexuals really feel a sense of partnership with their beloved objects, and they really do experience it emotionally and talk about it in terms that we would use if we're referring to a human lover.
And just like a human lover, objectum sexuals believe they have two-way communication with the one they love.
When I hold her in my arms, I can feel an energy coming from her. It's not a noise being emitted, but definitely an energy vibration that enters my body. That I can call a form of communication, an energy field. Sometimes I'll rub my hands on her metal, and she'll make the sweetest little sounds. Feels good. That feels good. Thank you. Thank you for washing me.
Edward also expresses his love for Vanilla by servicing her regularly.
If I'm literally tuned into my car with a sense of devotion and affection, I'm able to hear a certain sound and go, I better have that checked out. They do communicate. They do communicate in their own mechanical essence.
You made it. Hey, yeah.
Made it. How you doing?
Boy, it's been a long time.
Edward's brother Jack has grown to accept Ed's chosen soulmate.
When you compare it to a relationship, a wife will divorce you, a girlfriend will leave you or cheat on you. Whereas the car, he can just love it, knowing that the car will always be with him and won't leave him.
While Edward lives and loves his cars in the privacy of his own backyard, some objectum sexuals choose very public icons to be their lovers. Millions of tourists flock to Berlin annually to view remnants of the wall that divided the city for nearly 30 years. One woman made the same pilgrimage, but for her, the Berlin Wall is much more than a relic of the past. It's become her present-day lover.
I'm a person who's in love, very much in love. I just happen to be in love with an object.
For many people, the Berlin Wall came to symbolize the Cold War. It finally came down in 1989, but there are still remnants across the city.
What attracts me to the Berlin Wall is that here's an object that has been created to do a purpose that everyone detests.
And I feel how hungry you are to be loved, with an open heart, not with a chisel and hammer.
Erica Eiffel first had feelings for the wall back in 1985.
Stand by your side.
Her passion grew so strong that in 2008 she moved from the United States to be closer to it. Erica doesn't just like the wall, she loves it.
I felt that the Berlin Wall was an object that needed love and was hungry for love, and I couldn't help but feel that I was the one to bring this old, scarred icon of communism love.
But how does an objectum sexual have an intimate relationship when their lover is a very public object? Erica's solution is to keep a series of models in her lover's image. She even takes her favorite model to bed.
He is sort of like my main model, the one that I kind of use as my extension of the Berlin Wall. So in other words, when I'm with this model, it is more like I feel like I'm with him.
This is common practice for objectum sexual or OS people who love public objects.
They will almost use the object like a muse. They'll take photographs or build models, they'll write, they'll do all kinds of things to celebrate their relationship with the object.
When it comes to having sex with her lover, Erica prefers not to go into detail.
It's very easy for people to get these images in their head of, okay, woman and wall, how does that work? It just does. And the details are between us. And what is intimate for us might not even be considered intimate for humans.
While in Berlin, Erica has made friendships within the objectum sexual community.
Susan, look who's sitting over there with an amazing graffiti on there.
She's just discovered a new piece of the wall.
You haven't seen this before? I've not seen this. When did they put this out here? This is stunning. Oh my gosh. Look at this.
It's love at first sight.
There is a resilience about the Berlin Wall that I'm very much drawn to. The fact that he's been through hell and back and survived is kind of a parallel to my own life. And that I feel that I'm a survivor also.
Erica suffered emotional and sexual abuse as a child and was in foster care by the age of 9. Some researchers argue that if a child is unloved and treated like an object, this might eventually lead them to objectum sexuality.
It's a clever defense of the body or the mind to make something painful into something pleasurable. So the objectum sexuality is making something pleasurable out of being treated like an object. I sexualize objects, therefore I triumph over the pain of being treated like an object. It's brilliant.
But Erica insists that her attraction to objects predates her childhood traumas.
It is very easy to pathologize and say that I don't have trust in people because of this, the hurt that I went through, and therefore I've become OS. I don't believe that for a minute. I know that because I just know how I've connected with objects my entire life.
A recent survey of objectum sexuals indicates that not only do they find personality in objects, they usually have a strong aesthetic sense. They're turned on by certain shapes, lines, and textures.
There's so much eye candy in Berlin. There's all this glass and steel. It's just, wow.
Research suggests objectum sexuals may be born with different hard wiring in the brain.
It's almost like they look like metal shades.
I think they are.
Oh, check it out.
Nature, rather than nurture, may determine who is destined to become an objectum sexual.
I like that. It's a nice element with the parallel lines.
Their passion for objects may be triggered by an inherent condition known as synesthesia.
Synesthesia is different wiring in the brain that allows people to perceive things in a very different way. So they might taste colors or hear smells. And there's over 60 different kinds, and probably more, that have been discovered. And one of those kind is object personification synesthesia, where people sense personalities in ordinary objects.
Despite being in love with the Berlin Wall for years,
It's going to be cold.
Erica has never spent the night in its embrace. But that's about to change.
Tonight, I am going to be sleeping out in an old watchtower that was part of the border fortification system. It's going to be cold tonight. Very, very special opportunity because as an OS person living a public object, it's maybe a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me to sleep in public with my object and having it be condoned.
The watchtower was once part of the Berlin Wall's border fortification system.
So, finally the keys, no?
Oh, yes, finally. This is unbelievable.
You
This is the first time in my entire life that my loving a public object has ever been accepted. So you're that special person that is accepting that, and I appreciate that.
Oh, you're very welcome, of course. The keys, finally.
Thank you.
Tonight, Erica shows all the signs of a bride's anticipation on her wedding night.
Once I got in the watchtower and I locked the door, I knew that it was just the two of us. I felt that kind of the walls, the barriers that I felt in my life being OS dropped away. I was able to bare my soul to the one I love. I just melted into him, and I really felt this connection that we've been denied.
Whether it's through childhood trauma or different hard wiring in the brain, objectum sexuals are powerfully drawn to inanimate lovers. And while their lives and loves are a world away from each other, Erica and Edward share one thing in common.
Objectum sexuals, for the most part, feel happy or satisfied with their relationships. They feel happy. They don't want to change. This is who they are.
I want to live, and I want to love, and I want to do it out loud like everyone else. I no longer am a freak.
I don't have any kind of overpowering loneliness. I like coming home and just being by myself. I'm feeling an appreciation that's hard to even put into words. I love you, I love you, I love you. You know, that's what it is. And, you know, people don't understand that. They think, well, you need a woman to do that with. Well, maybe you do, but I'm fine.
For most people, marriage is about fidelity, loyalty, and resisting temptation. To break that bond and have sex outside the marital bed is taboo. But not for this couple. Cheryl and Bob call themselves monogamous. But throughout their marriage, Cheryl's had sex with hundreds of men. In Berkeley, California, Cheryl and Bob perform their usual morning rituals like any other couple.
Working tonight? As a matter of fact, I am. Starting at 12:30. I think they'll enjoy it. You know,
Cheryl Cohen Green runs her business from home.
Bye.
While her husband is at work, she makes a living having paid sex.
Hi, Javier. Please come in.
With strangers.
Please tell me what brought you here.
Well, I'd like to just get help with my anxiety about making love with other people. Sometimes
66-year-old Cheryl is a sex surrogate.
I get really turned on and everything's going well, and then when I get to the bedroom, I just tense up and certain parts of my body stop working.
Okay. There's a lot of what we do when we get anxious.
Cheryl is a trained professional who actually teaches her clients how to have sex.
The first thing I would like to do is get over the nudity. Okay? So, come, let's go into the bedroom. The surrogates are not trained to be psychologists. The surrogates are trained to actually be able to interact with the client and role model what a good relationship would be like.
Clients generally see Cheryl between 8 and 12 sessions, costing $240 each time. Her clients range in age from 35 to 86 years old. Typically, these men have had little to do with the opposite sex.
They don't know a lot about women, so they're coming to me for experience and information about women in general. You know, how do you touch? How do you kiss? How do you use safer sex?
Cheryl has been a sex surrogate for 37 years. She generally sees about 3 clients a week, but in her younger days, she would often see up to 10.
How many clients have I had sex with? I estimate probably about 900.
Paid sex with that many partners might sound less like therapy and more akin to the oldest profession in the world.
On some level, many healthcare professionals feel that it may be similar to prostitution. You're having a person who is involved with another person for financial reward or financial benefit.
But supporters argue that sex surrogacy is very different from prostitution in its intent.
There are people who would make the analogy that a surrogate is a prostitute, but I see it as a very, very different thing. A surrogate is there to enable a person to go on in his life and function in a healthy manner. A prostitute is more like a retail store, and they hope you'll come back and buy more from the store. And there isn't too much about it that's enabling or teaching.
Prostitution is illegal almost everywhere in the United States. But what is the status of sex surrogacy in the eyes of the law?
It's never been tested in court, but it has been examined in the state of California. Several district attorneys weighed in and said they thought there was nothing illegal in the practice of surrogate partner therapy. Generally, what the state is interested in is making sure that the consumer is well protected, and anyone who looks closely at this process sees that everyone is concerned about the client's well-being.
In her 37 years on the job, no one has ever tried to prosecute Cheryl for having paid sex.
Nothing has happened. I've had mayors and government officials and police officers and, as clients. And so everybody can use some fine tuning. So just having him start to learn how to stay present and in his body.
Cheryl's clients are referred to her by marriage and family therapist Dr. Luann Weston.
For the more possible potential product just for now.
Yeah. And so he may have some issues around intimacy and feeling like he can't abandon himself sexually well when he's thinking.
While Dr. Weston estimates that only 3% of her patients need the help of a sex surrogate, she believes it's an important tool for treating certain clients.
Some problems simply can't be talked through very effectively. I've worked with people who have spent years and years doing talk therapy on their sexual issues. I would refer them to Cheryl, and in a much shorter amount of time, we've resolved the problem.
And most often, solving that problem relies on the actual act of having sex. Although sex surrogacy is associated in the public mind with the act of having sex,
Come on in, we're going to make ourselves comfortable. Would you call
in fact, it's only about halfway through the treatment that Cheryl and the client will actually have sex.
So there may or may not be intercourse in the sixth. If there is, it's usually for maybe 10 seconds.
In subsequent sessions, the clients engage in intercourse for longer periods, honing the skills they will ultimately use in their own bedrooms.
Once they've gotten there, magic happens at times. You know, the client has got it. It's like riding a bike. They're on their way.
Before 1985, there were approximately 200 sex surrogates practicing in the U.S. But since then, there's been a dramatic decline. Cheryl is now one of only 50. And it seems that attitudes toward the profession may be hardening. Many in the medical profession believe the practice of sex surrogacy violates the ethical boundary between therapist and client and is therefore taboo.
Many organizations, including the medical board, have strong restrictions in terms of being sexually active or intimately involved with your patient. It's really a breach of privacy, it's an abuse of power, and it can be seen as violating the patient-doctor confidentiality.
There are dangers involved in sex surrogacy that even its supporters acknowledge.
When you have sex with somebody, you can fall in love with them. Any kind of stimulation of the genitals drives up dopamine in the brain, and dopamine can push you over that threshold into falling in love with somebody.
In certain circumstances, clients may form bonds of deep attachment with their surrogate partner.
There are men that after they build confidence with this one person, then they can't translate that confidence to another person, and the sex facilitates an emotional bond. And then they even feel rejected when the surrogate partner really tries to establish clear boundaries.
The scenario of client and surrogate falling in love has played out in Cheryl's own personal life.
Hi, sweetheart.
Hi, honey.
Good to see you.
Oh, good. There is an emotional attachment with each client. There has to be. I care about what happens. I want them to succeed. I want them to get it.
How was your day?
My day went really well. The client's moving along and making progress in that.
Yeah, good work.
Cheryl's husband, Bob, is living proof that seeking help from a sex surrogate can be life-changing.
Being sexually impotent led me to the love of my life.
He was once one of her clients.
It's funny how life works out. It took a number of years of me being unhappy that led me to Cheryl, which opened the door to a wonderful life with her. I couldn't ask for more.
By dating and subsequently marrying Bob, Cheryl crossed an ethical boundary within her own profession.
Marrying a client is considered a no-no, and I won't apologize for it because I didn't hurt him. we fell in love and we married each other. We're human beings.
So how does husband Bob feel about his 66-year-old wife having sex with hundreds of different men in their marital bed?
This may sound strange, but there's no jealousy involved. She's not having sexual relations with these men for her own pleasure. She is there in the capacity of a mentor, a teacher, a facilitator. She's touched thousands of lives, both personally and professionally.
Despite Cheryl's chosen profession, Bob still sees them as a happy and monogamous couple.
Emotionally, I trust that I have Cheryl's love, and vice versa. That, to me, is the ultimate attribute of being monogamous.
Thank you.
But what chance does love have when a couple is 3 generations apart?
Chris?
10 minutes.
If you're not up in 10 minutes, that's it. I'm going to throw water over you.
In Brighton, England, Norma Harvey struggles every morning to get Chris Harvey out of bed.
Come on, Chris, breakfast is ready.
But what looks like a typical mother and son struggle is far from it. Because Chris and Norma are a married couple. With an age difference of 32 years, many might consider their relationship taboo.
Opposition towards our age gap over the years has just made us a stronger couple. Look, it's over there.
Chris first set eyes on the love of his life when he was 18 and on vacation with his parents.
I'd seen Norma dancing on the first evening, and I thought she looked wonderful. She looked really glamorous, and I wanted to ask her out or ask her for a dance, you know, ask her if she wanted to drink. But I didn't have no courage. I was only 18. I didn't have the bottle to ask her, and I left it, and I regretted it afterwards that night.
Eventually, Chris found the courage to ask Norma, then 50, if he could walk her home. He ended up staying the night.
I thought, I've pulled an older woman, you know, this is one to tell me mates when I get
And I
home.
were thinking, you know, some young lad liking some old biddy.
Norma was already a married woman with a child of her own when Chris was still in diapers. That makes him only 1 year older than his own stepdaughter. Even more extraordinary, his own mother is 10 years younger than his wife. Despite the yawning age gap, after a courtship of only 3 weeks, Chris proposed. 3 years later, they were married.
Chris, what do you think? I finished it.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah.
Now 32 and 64, they're about to celebrate their 11th wedding anniversary.
Yeah, that's really good. Of course, I've got to wear this red tie so as I match my lovely wife.
Although many didn't expect it to last, their marriage has survived an entire decade. The age gap often sees Norma taking on a motherly role.
I'm not his mum, but I have to act like a mum, you know, because I think he takes advantage of that.
You always got to do the end. So you will take control sometimes,
Yeah.
won't you, of things that we're doing.
He thinks I'm a bossy boobs, but everything I do is for his own good.
The assumption that they're mother and son has sometimes created outrage among the general public.
So we get sniggers and stuff on the bus, and we'd answer that back with in your face back. So if it was tutting on the bus,
Well, them 2 old ladies at the back of us who were going,
we'd have a joke, and it'd be, "Give us a kiss, Mum."
yeah.
And she'd go,
yeah.
"Well, don't tell your dad."
Society tends to frown upon age gap relationships, especially when one partner looks like the parent.
People are more disapproving of age gaps the larger they are. So as a person becomes old enough to potentially be their partner's parent or grandparent, people are especially disapproving of that.
That disapproval centers around sex.
We look at the older person as sort of maintaining a parentified role, and when we confer sexual characteristics and connotations to the parentified role, somehow that then becomes taboo because nobody wants to think of their parents as being sexual beings.
And that taboo is even stronger when the woman is older than the man.
It violates their assumptions for what a traditional romantic relationship should look like. It sort of flips the traditional power dynamic on its head by putting the woman in more of the dominant position by being the older partner.
That older woman is also unlikely to be able to have children. And this violates the taboo around reproduction.
From an evolutionary perspective, he is a biological dead end. He's not sending his DNA into tomorrow.
It's this evolutionary imperative that explains why society views Chris and Norma's relationship as unnatural. "5 p.m. on the big day, and they're off to their anniversary party, traveling in style. En route, they visit a local photographer to document their big day. While people are quick to criticize a relationship where the woman is older, society tends to be less critical when the age difference is the other way around.
It's much more common to see older men with younger women simply because, as far as we can remember, people think traditionally of male roles as being the provider.
Right, just look at the camera nicely.
And often when men are greater in age than the woman, they are able to provide finances and take care of the family.
This looks normal.
From a Darwinian evolutionary perspective, it makes a lot of sense. The young girl needs the resources of the older man to help her raise her babies, and the older man needs the youth and health and fertility of a young woman to raise his babies.
That tradition still prevails in the developing world. In rural economies where dowries are key to many marriages, it's still common to see a substantial age gap between husband and wife. In fact, Somalia recorded a marriage between a 112-year-old man and a 17-year-old girl, an age gap of nearly a century. Celebrations are underway for Chris and Norma's anniversary party. Against all odds, they are still happy and together after 11 years of marriage.
Right, thank you all again for coming to our 11th wedding anniversary party. We're glad that you all could make it.
Among the guests are Chris's parents. They've reluctantly grown to accept the marriage, even though both are nearly a decade younger than Norma.
When I first met Norma, my mum and dad tried to give me advice and I wouldn't take it. And they said, well, look, you know, Norma's 50, you're 18, you're at college, you're ruining your life.
You made me love you. Didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it.
Chris's father still has misgivings.
Chris could have done anything he wanted. He's got the brains for it. It's up to him. He was very strong-minded, I'm afraid.
You make me happy sometimes, true. You make me sad.
I suppose in a way I actually did change my life from what it would have been. But I don't regret it because I'm in love, I'm happy with my wife, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
In spite of the taboos surrounding age gap relationships, Chris and Norma are living proof that love can conquer the age divide.
Well, I suppose if I'd have not met Norma and I would have been with a girl my own age, I would have probably had more friends. I might have had children, but I'm glad I made those sacrifices because I'm happy with Norma. We've made it work. We've proved that an age difference of that magnitude can work.
Humans will always seek love and companionship. But some people's love stories are out of this world, even taboo.